May I just take this first moment to say I wish we had our music. I just wish we had the Rain, the Park, and Other Things intro. Why can't we have it?
Well, it is there on the audio podcast. They put it in after, not on
So
the
what
video.
happens to the visual people? They just sit here with us and go, boo, we're
Yes, the
here.
video just pops in and we're here. That is true. I don't
Oh,
know
I
why.
don't like it.
I always think something's on a financial tier. Well, yeah, you can have video too, but you need to pay this much. Oh, well, you can have this, but I think we're stuck on tiers in our
I
life.
think you might have a point, brother.
Yeah, I
All
might have a point.
right. Well, hi, y'all.
We want to say Happy New Year to everybody.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
2024 is upon us. Did
We're
anybody do any resolutions?
Are you kidding?
a
My
resident.
resolution is to not have any.
It slipped
Okay.
my mind. It slipped my mind. I never made any anyway, formally. And I see it on the TV and stories about resolutions, but it never hits me to make a New Year's resolution. But I never gave
Yeah.
up anything
Yeah.
for Lent as a Catholic. Well, I did. I gave up. I made a mistake one year and never gave up anything else again for Lent. I gave up soda and I made the mistake of announcing it and calling it soda when I really meant to just give up Coca-Cola. And so I had no soda. Everyone's on me about soda for the whole Lent
Wow.
that
Oh,
year. And I thought, this is a big mistake. And God did not want us to suffer this much through Lent where I had no soda. I just gave up on all that stuff,
yeah.
it
I
backfired.
remember one Lent, we never went to the movies, so I gave up movies for Lent. And
Oh,
then that
easy.
year, Ben Hur came out, and Mom was taking everybody to Ben Hur, except me because I gave up movies. Oh my God, I cried and cried. I got to go to Ben Hur.
But like, so she sat you down and said, buddy, it's okay. God loves you anyway,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Well, I don't know if God loves me, but it was
Look,
certainly okay.
we went through the bell curve of Lent. In the
Okay.
beginning, your parents said, what are you giving up for Lent? What are you giving up for Lent? What are you giving up for Lent? And then you get older and they
Yeah.
wait for you to announce it, I guess. And then pretty soon, no one's giving up
Yeah.
anything for Lent.
I didn't never do it because I just felt like every day I was trying to do better every bloody day. And so, like, why am I going to now put a big ball and chain around myself? I mean, I'm a constant resolution, man.
Yeah, and I even think by about day 35 in the desert, even Jesus was going, I don't know about this.
Exact,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exact. And I'm
I
a
shouldn't
big
have given
Jesus.
up water.
So yeah, the older you get, you did end up picking as Catholic children, you started picking doable things you could do without during Lent. You thought about it
Yeah, yeah.
before Lent and you announced it, and it was a safe bet. I was
Yeah.
older when I did the soda thing. I was kind of maybe showing up. Yeah, I'm giving up soda. It's bad
Uh,
for you anyway.
I think I tried to
yeah.
give up swearing because, like, me, you guys. I mean, I'm a lot better as an old lady, but when I was a kid, it was pretty bad. And I think I tried to do that. And it was like I had Tourette's or something. I couldn't do it. Nope.
Susan,
Couldn't. What?
you're a salty sister.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead and
sorry.
swear if you want. It's okay.
I'm sorry.
You can swear. It doesn't
I'm
matter.
super sweet though. It just was I was raised by a pirate.
Nothing wrong with
Her
salt.
I have
name
Yeah,
a
we had salty dad, man. It's like get
and my
yeah,
over
yeah.
it.
mom was
Get
salty.
over it.
Ah,
He was brutal. So what? He's
so
gone.
what?
Eh.
You're
Anyway,
me.
we do have
Yeah.
shows
Oh,
coming, folks, next
oh,
month. Go ahead,
wait.
Susan.
Can
What?
I time out because something did happen to me this morning and I wanted to share and see if y'all had seen this. It came up. I actually went on Facebook. I never do, but this now and then video came up.
Yeah.
This beat. Okay, I know I'm behind. I don't do things when it's happening. People are, you got to do this and go see that, and I just get upset and I just like shut down.
And then
So I
you
I
see
knew
it
there
then.
was something, and then I don't know about that. I think it's this. I think it's that. I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't even know what it was. So today I see a video. It says now and then.
Hmm.
I push it. It is precious. It is,
Yeah.
I'm sobbing. I'm dying. I'm crying like a baby. And then I'm remembering all these things I heard people say. Like they didn't like this. And I'm like, what what problem did people have with this moment?
I can explain that.
Please do.
Okay. Number one. Okay. Number one. It's not a Beatles song. Okay. Yeah, it's from the archives. I mean, Harrison called it a piece of S. Okay. So it's from the archives. That's true. But
Okay.
it's more like It comes off more like a John Lennon solo career song. Okay. It sounds like a John Lennon solo career song, and that's okay too. But using the technology and the voice modulator and the manipulation to get the other guys on it, a lot of people are questioning, was that worth it? Was it necessary? And does this do anything? And the ultimate response was the group of you guys, like you, Susan, who thinks this is great. A lot of the Beatle fans are going unnecessary. So it did cross a whole
Thinking too
broad spectrum
much.
of that kind of thing. And,
I
we're
see
trying to make
that.
more money or like, what's going
Wow.
on here?
So isn't it okay? So isn't this interesting? Because, and this is my life, like I'm just a human being doing a human being moment. I don't come in, I don't like when I hit it, I went, what is, oh, that's that
Right.
thing. What?
You're not
And I'm
prepared.
like, and now I'm just, I'm not going, wait a minute.
Right.
This is an archival, blah, blah, blah. This is a John Lennon book. And I'm not thinking anything.
You missed the run up. Now, the run up is this. This is something that they didn't want to do before. Well, those are the songs that are no good that you leave behind because that's why you left them
This is
behind.
hilarious.
But when you get so big later, all of a
Mhm.
sudden, oh, now that's a magical song too, huh? I don't think so, but I get it. Paul's looks like he's agreeing.
If you're not having anything in your head, though, like you just like it, like you don't think like that. Like
I
none of
know,
that came into my head. And I'm thinking,
right?
why not? I'm weird.
But what's the
Okay.
plan here? What's the game? Is it
I
just
just
to
didn't. I just thought
Yeah.
him and Ringo were
and
trying to do something sweet, is what I got from it, but I don't know.
maybe, but it's also the third time they've attempted this. They did it with Soldier of Love back in the
So
day, and
yeah, I don't
that
know. Okay.
flopped. I
Thank you.
mean,
Thank you. Didn't mean to
different
take
things
up all the
flop.
time. I asked the question. I didn't know what the problem
Right.
was.
You know
And
what?
they
I
had,
Go ahead, Paul.
oh, I was just going to say, yeah, it was an afterthought at best because
Mm-hmm.
it was a part of a conglomerate of songs that they've had forever. And this was just another one of them. And,
right.
they realized they had run out of the ability to do it. So, but then technology created,
Yes.
the Get Back movie for
Wow, I
them.
just
And they
thought it
kind of
was so
used that
sweet.
same thing.
Okay.
Hey, I
Yeah.
wish I would have
Yeah.
come in with no knowledge.
You would
Okay,
have loved
but I
it, man.
had,
You would have been in tears. It would have just been a tender moment.
yeah,
Nobody,
it's too much. I
it's
mean,
not a great song. I remember thinking that. And I remember thinking, did Paul write this or did Ringo and Paul? Here's the only thoughts I had. And then I thought,
yeah,
well, that was sweet. So
yeah.
interesting. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I thought Smithereens wasn't their song now and then.
Yes, it
Yes.
was.
It
And
was. It
hey,
was.
Jim
Yeah. Yeah.
Babjack, congratulations to Jim Babjack. He just got remarried. He's very happily married again. Yes, many years after the loss of his
Beautiful.
first wife, he is happy again. And so we are happy for our Smithereen
Nice.
pal. Yeah,
Very
good
much.
stuff. It's a new year,
Yeah.
guys. 224.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
amazing. This is our first
2024.
episode of 2024,
Yeah.
and
Man,
we are embarking, I think, upon our third year as podcasters. Might as well stay with it.
crazy.
It's a lot of fun,
We love
and
it.
It
we have a
is.
big
It is.
announcement. We do have a big announcement,
Hey, did
actually.
we said who's on our show?
No, we that's a
Well,
big
we have
announcement.
two big
We do have a
announcements.
guest, and we're not going to just ramble in front of you for an hour. So we do have a
So
guest,
what's your
Susan.
announcements?
Well, well, we can go with the guest, or uh, well,
You
my
started.
announcement is this.
Yes.
We've been approached, and we're going to do this. We're going to have a weekly Sunday radio show in West Virginia on 97.9 The River. Okay, so all you West Virginians can look down there and listen to us. It's on an app too. I mean, it's a radio show, so you'll get it. But it's gonna be 1 hour every Sunday. Cowsill Chronicles, which sounded good as we were going through this little process. It had
Paulie
a
had
ring.
these names, and we everybody gravitated to the Chronicle,
Yeah, Mike
Paulie.
took to it real quick. So
And then he adapted the deep dive to the 67.
we're with Kindred Communications, Mike Kurtner, a believer for a couple of years. We've met and known Mike, and he's listened to our podcast. He's appreciated the fact that this is a library, a history library of our genre and our musical years from the voices of the people who took part in it, really. From Bill Medley to look,
All of our interviews. Yeah.
there's a ton of them, guys.
There's a
And
ton of
so it's
them.
a radio show based on the podcast. And we'll be looking to syndicate it nationally after that. But that's a little fun plan for 2024.
That's
Thank you, Kindred.
exciting.
Absolutely.
because I think it's going to lead to the first three people at a television show. What do you got, Polly?
That's
What I
Susan's
got, it's
dream.
a brand new year. It's 2024. We've been doing this podcast for a couple of years now. I think it might be time to charge everybody.
That came from a CEO at Cowsill Productions, the head of finance is
That'd
Paul
be great.
Cowsill.
We had
What do you mean,
150,000
no?
downloads. How many downloads next week? Well, we had
Wait
40.
a darn minute.
Yeah.
That is a very good point. Look, y'all,
Mm.
it's hilarious. I mean, never mind. I mean, don't people get paid for having TV shows? I know you don't get paid for a
Well,
podcast, and I know
sure.
you don't get paid for a radio show.
And a
No, people get
document.
paid for podcasts.
Oh, well,
Absolutely.
geez, if you're Joe Rogan, and they're millionaires.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be Joe Rogan.
Okay, well, we got a little bit of a climb to go there, and that's okay. I'm gonna go for Adam Carolla's level. I'll go there first because he's more my kind of podcast guy. I mean, Joe's good.
Mhm.
Joe's great, man. He's great, but I
Does
love
he
Adam.
have guests like us?
So very cool. So, uh,
All right. May I say who we have on today?
oh, sure. We do have a guest.
We
The good
do.
news is,
The
Susan.
good news is, first of 224, we have a guest, and we are coming from New Orleans, Louisiana on this particular podcast, y'all. We have,
Right.
I know it's very exciting. I mean, Bob's in LA and he's got all his folks and friends he hangs out with, and we have people all over the globe. But I thought it would be fun to bring on a dear friend of mine. He's one of my besties, Mr. George Porter Jr., the bass player for the Meters, the bass player for the Funky Meters, and you will find the bass player for a heck of a lot more than that.
And the running partners.
And the
George,
running partners.
you guys have time to
Partners.
pull up the Google. You know what you're going to do. Get in the
Yeah.
ballpark with us here. George is a musician's musician. And that's the only phrase I can come up with because when I read about George and knew about what he'd been up to, this is a great, great bass player. Okay. This is the main axe for George. But he's everybody's great bass player. More than you could ever imagine is he their great bass player. So
And
it's
he
not
even
like,
forgot on some of the things he's on. He's
oh, I'm
been
sure
on
he has.
so many,
Yeah.
like he forgot, and I want to bring it back up. He's on Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I love
And I
it.
told him, I'm like, dude, he goes, oh, I did that. Yeah, oh, yeah, that's right. I mean, it's
Wow.
that's how
Well, if it was in the 80s, we'll know why he didn't remember. But we
and
don't
he
have to
said
get into
he's
that.
happy to talk about anything.
Yeah,
He just
yeah.
reported back, and he said he's an open book.
I think that's
So
great.
we'll
Except
just take
for,
him.
can't
What?
say except for. No, I won't
No.
say the name.
No.
Um, but yeah, look up the meters or any of it, or the
Funky Meters
the funky meters
and
is
the
the
running
more
podness
current
and
version
George
of
Porter
the
Trio.
meters. We better let everyone know because it's next month,
Come on.
February 8th at the Emerson Center in Vero Beach, Florida. We will be there.
Yep.
And then we will be at Mohegan Sun
Yep.
Saturday, February 10th. And
Finally
then
back.
just watch the first half of the Super Bowl and then head over to the cutting room. We'll be there just starting at halftime, and you can join us there. And maybe we'll put it on little monitors. You can have it there. But February 11th, come on, Sunday night in New York City, man.
Look,
It's
I'm wearing a Saints
Be
shirt. I'm
beautiful.
it's
sorry
the
I'm doing it.
cutting room. The Saints.
I know we won't be in the bowl, but I might have to
You know what?
represent that night.
I don't believe that the New Orleans Saints is heading to the brown bag over the head fan situation they had for years. The Aints, they called
Yeah.
them.
No, I
The
think we're
Aints.
safe from Aints, but I
Yeah,
don't
you're
think
safe
we're
from
bowling
Aints.
either.
I believe.
But I don't know.
All right, so that's February. March, we already know, guys. March, we are on the briny sea.
On the sea.
The
Yes, we are.
70s
Cruise, baby.
rock and romance cruise, the 70s. We're learning those songs now. And the
That's right.
60s flower power cruise.
And we need to hear back from our Star Vistans. I got called into an office on my vacation to be asked about the malt shop cruise. So I need to hear from y'all.
Yeah, we can fire it off an email and flush that out pretty easy. Let's do it. Because we have,
Yeah.
I do get a new attitude when it's the start of a new year. Let's say something hasn't been going real well in the old year and you've had it. When you come to the new year, you feel real strong about, yeah, I'm done with that. We're flushing this out and fixing this. So there's lots of things you get in the mood to do at the beginning of a new year that are probably pretty useful. So we need to do things to get our
I'm gonna
house
go.
in order.
I'm gonna get my house in order. I need to go on a diet.
Oh my. Have the holidays been good to you, Polly?
I've been pretty good, but
Paul, you look
I gotta
good.
rock it.
You look good. The gig we
I'm
just did.
feeling good.
You're fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you looked good where we just saw you. What's
I
been going on?
I didn't go on a diet, but I started to eat right. And when I go on a diet, that just means I don't buy cookies, I don't buy cake, I don't buy
No
Hostess
chips.
pies, I don't
Chips.
chips. Well, I got to do a little chip with a ham sandwich, but it's more what I don't buy
I
is
agree.
how I
Yeah.
diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
because I eat the normal
Yes.
stuff, but it's this
Yeah.
other stuff.
And volume of what you're eating too. It has
Volume
a lot to do with it.
and deciding to eat. It sounds harsh, but biologically and functionally, rather than because everything tastes so good. Because the reason I overeat is I'm full, but it tastes so good. I keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah,
I know.
that's
I
the
know.
trap. It's the
Y'all,
trap.
look,
Yeah.
look, Santa, I showed you last thing.
You did.
I'm like, what am I
Hey,
going to do?
you know what?
Whoa, man. Whoa,
I'm
I'm
starting to think we
tripping.
do have New Year's resolutions. We got to get in shape
There
for the year that's coming. There he
he
is.
is.
Hi, Georgie.
Hey guys, good
Hey,
morning.
Hey,
George.
George.
Oh wow, what a backdrop you guys got.
We had an album out last year called Rhythm of the World. So we felt we needed to image wise project that uh,
I
to
got you.
to
I got
support
you.
our record.
Yeah,
So that's
I'm in my workspace. Yes.
yeah, you're in your workspace. That's the fun space. That's the lab.
We recorded in there. Remember we did that thing for that. You let me come up there and record a vocal on
Nice.
something.
Yeah, y'all
It's
did.
nothing.
Y'all did a recording up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I've done quite a few of the songs you wrote for me, the lyrics you wrote for me up here in this room.
Aw,
Listen to
Jorge.
you, Susan.
I know. Me and George are besties. We're gonna try and
Yeah.
yeah, we're
But
besties.
Well, let
it's
me do it.
unfortunate for me that I just never learned the songs. They were too hard to sing and play.
That's okay. No, it's true. When you write for George, and then may I say this, you already know, and people will tell you, just keep the lyrics where it can be all done, and then you don't. This guy, he plays like a classical bass playing, but it's hard. Look, I try and sing and play bass, and I can't, George. But George, can I introduce you to my brothers?
Yeah, this
Okay,
is great.
please.
Okay, so the guy up there is Bob, and
Mhm.
he's my oldest brother. Well, what's left. And that's Paul. He's my middle brother, and he
Hey,
was kind of my
George.
dad. And that's George Porter Jr., y'all.
Hi, George. I've never been referred to as a leftover older brother like I just was. But, with three of us dead, I am the oldest one left. I mean,
All I'm saying.
but it's by default,
Oh
I
yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
understand. I understand. Well, I was the oldest brother, and I'm the last of my bloodline. Well,
Wow.
I'm not the last. I should say I am the oldest of my. I'm the older brother. I'm the older. Um, I have one aunt that's older than me right now, and she's trying to transition out of here. But
We are them now, guys. Okay, we're
yeah,
them. We
It's
took over
happening to
the
all
spot.
of us.
Now, can I just say one thing? George Porter
Yeah.
Jr., just for the folks, I mean, this is New Orleans. This man is New Orleans. He was born in New Orleans. This man is New Orleans. This man is a musician. He's not a band member. I mean, you got the meters, you got the run, you got his groups, but this guy, George, just plays bass as a bassman. I guess he can be. I guess we could have called him up, George. We need you because this guy plays with and for everyone, and it's just not one band. I'm amazed at how you spread yourself out as a career in a career of it. I mean, the Meters was a big deal, and that's a band. Okay, the Meters and the Funky Meters now. But I'm talking about George, the musician, just to tell everyone he picked up on bass. We're going to ask him what his mom was thinking with the two violins at age 7, but we can get into that. But I just wanted everyone to know about George and where he's from and what he's about, man.
See, we do research, George, before we have
I
anybody
found out.
on.
I'm learning.
Yeah, I know. Doesn't this feel really official?
George, I don't know if you guys knew it at the time, but when you were with the Meters and you were in the studio playing with everybody, you guys were kind of like the Black Wrecking Crew, right? Because you had that ability to play with all these bands.
Yeah, I guess we were the Southern Wrecking Crew for sure. Yeah,
The Southern,
Yeah.
yeah,
that's good.
because I mean, back then we weren't
Yeah, you
considered
covered it
black.
all down there.
All right.
Yeah,
So since I brought it up, can I just go to young George? Because George, I get this
You're
cool
taking
vision.
my thing. Okay, I'm going to let him do it,
Well,
George. Go
because
on.
I mentioned the 7-year-old thing, I just want to, you can get into your normal
Okay.
question, but I see him and his brother on the porch. And first of all, could you tell me what a social pleasure club is? Because back in the day, you're talking about social pleasure clubs and the bands that played there. Is that just like a canteen at the time or just a old
no,
name for a bar?
the social and pleasure clubs were typically, I mean, on our end of the city was black organizations, sort of like the Zulu, like Zulu is, you know, the black club that that tend to do things in the community for people. But
Cool.
mostly the idea was to be able to raise money to have a party at the end of the year, around Mardi Gras time.
But it's like the Shriners guys, like, like they.
Yeah, and also, in the neighborhood that I lived in on Grabby Street when I was a kid, we were like about 4 blocks from one of the local social and pleasure clubs. I can't remember the name of the place now. Oh, no, I do remember. It was called the Jolly Bunch.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
These guys, the older members, when older members pass on, they would have a second line. They would do a second line to honor the older the person that passed away,
Wow.
and they would always pass because they were on Grabby Street. I was on Perdita Street, 1 block over, and so I'm like 3.5 blocks from where they are. Go over 1 block,
Wow.
over 2 blocks, and there they are. So they would always pass in front of my house. The second line would always pass in front of my house. So I was seeing second lines, from the age that my mom and them let us sit on the porch and watch them. We couldn't get off the porch. We would sit on the porch because sometimes the second lines can be pretty rowdy. And my dad would always be at work when those kind of things happen. Because my dad would work on Saturday. The second lines were always, it depends. Now, if a guy passed away during the early part of the week, then he may have his second line on a Wednesday.
Oh, what a
But
memory.
it would always happen, after school hours. So the kids would be home, and so we would be on the porches
So
watching.
this was a real thing for y'all.
Oh,
This,
absolutely, and then also at that age, we lived 2 blocks basically from the parish prison. Parish prison was our local city prison where if you screw up, that's where you went. And it was like a known thing when we were not being very good at home. Mama would grab us, bring us out to the middle of the street, and point at the corner and say, "If you keep acting like this, you're gonna be there." And she would point at the prison. And so we, so like as kids, we were like being told from an early age that bad boys go to prison.
okay. Well, that's funny because when we were interviewing Miami Steve, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions here in a second, George, but one of the questions I asked him is, other than a musician, what did he want to do as he was growing up? Did he have anything else he was trying to achieve, to become? And he said, yeah, I'm trying to stay out of jail.
Stay
That's
out of
what
prison,
I did.
stay out of jail.
And that was his occupation. His other occupation besides musician was trying to stay out of jail. All right. Guys, can I proceed down our official path? Okay. George Porter Jr., welcome to the Cowsills podcast.
It's great to be here. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. So I like to take care of early childhood times, and I like to kind of try and find out how you became who you are now. Like we come out, we are born, mom and dad bring you home to the Perdido house. And, you're growing up. Did you always was music a part of your young life? We just heard second lines were, but coming up when you were little wee George, did you want to be a fireman, a garbage man, a doctor, a ditch digger, anything but a musician, or did music play right from the start?
I can't, I can't think about what, I don't mean, not can't think, I can't remember about what we were, me and my little brother was in that before five,
Mm-hmm.
I think the last thing on our mind was what we was going to become.
Okay.
We heard there was
Okay.
music. There was always music in the house. My dad liked jazz, and my mom
Okay.
liked R&B. My
Okay,
mom
but
sang.
well,
Mhm.
then I have to insert right here because I need to know. Your parents have music in the house. Okay, now your mom, obviously, you're 7 or 8, and your mom's going to bring music to you, and she decides that I mean, you said R&B, and two violins show up at the house. Now, when you get these violins, you and your brother, right? I,
Yes.
what's going through your head? I mean, are you really going to learn the violin? I know your dad came home and got everything straightened out, but how did that come down? Did you
Well,
look at him and go, Mom, what are
I
you
think
doing?
it was my mom, and the violins thing happened around the age of 5 and 6. I mean, somewhere between 5 and 6. My mother was in the St. Catherine choir, the organ player and music conductor for the choir. It was a Catholic school choir. He was very concerned about my mom. He was concerned about my neighborhood, and that there was an element of badness that could go there. But like I said, mom always reminded us that where bad boys end up.
Nice.
But my
Yeah.
mom,
I can tell he hasn't forgotten.
yeah, Gus Lewton used to tell my mom, he said, you need to get those boys into music. Get them into music, because, that'll keep them off the street, because,
Okay.
playing an instrument, well, they would, if they take to the instrument, they're going to spend a whole lot of time playing that
Yes.
instrument and not outside.
Yep.
And that's what mom went. I mean, the violin, I think, they had a Worldized Music. It was on Canal Street back then. They were trying to get, they had a sale, like what it was like, buy, with lease purchase, I believe it was called.
Oh.
Violins. They was trying to get violins moving.
Okay.
So they, lease purchase, violins,
Lease to buy.
lease to buy, and so my mom, she thought, but we didn't have room in the house for piano. She just didn't think a drum snare drum thing would work in the house.
Smart mom.
She brought home these two violins,
Oh,
and she gave it to me and my brother. And me and my brother, sitting and we wasn't on the porch. We was in our back room. So it was in the house, and my dad came home. I mean, I think the violins lasted in the house about 5 hours. Maybe not that long. But my dad came in the house, and he heard me and my brother in the back.
I can't imagine it.
We can't repeat the words he used, but
Oh my God. I had never heard this story.
This has to get out of this house right now, or somebody's going to die.
Now, what did Dad?
I think he was going to kill my mom. I'm not sure.
Clearly, they didn't consult on the children's music decisions.
He didn't talk to me about this. What is this? Lose this,
Well,
And
did Dad decide? Did Dad decide? No, it's not going to be the violin. It's going to be this. And
No, Dad had no input on us at the time. Well, first of all, we couldn't afford instruments.
Yeah.
We were on that end of the economy line that we were living from week to week off Dad's income.
Okay.
And my mom started teaching the next year. So we were 5. Because my mom started teaching at the school that I was going to at St. Catherine. She was singing there. We were going to school there. So, mom started actually not only being in the choir, she started teaching second grade there. So, so I was already like in 3rd grade, I believe, or 2nd grade. I was in 2nd grade and got skipped. So
Oh,
I didn't really do second grade. I went from first grade to second grade and then immediately to third grade. So in my second year at St. Catherine, I was in the third grade. And
Cool.
it was like there wasn't money to put into things. And it wasn't until we moved and we had to move because my grandmother and the house where she was living at up on Leander Street, up in Carrollton neighborhood, um, got sold. And, basically they was told they had to get out of the house.
oh
And
wow.
so my mom moved into a bigger house and she bought my grandmother and my Aunt Rosie. And we all was living in my dad's house. And, which at that point got to be too big for daddy. Daddy didn't like that at all,
Where'd Dad go?
Not only is mother-in-law here, but sister is here too.
Oh, that's
That was
bad
like,
cocktail.
juju was really bad. And then what happened was when I was 8 years old, my grandmother bought me a guitar for my eighth birthday. And
What kind, George? What kind of guitar? Acoustic,
it
electric?
was a Silvertone.
That was my first one.
It was a hollow body Silvertone guitar.
Yep. That was my first guitar, Silvertone.
It was brought from Sears, right? Was it
Sears?
Yeah.
You bet.
And it was I loved it. And it had a little, no, the hollow body was the second one. The first one, no, the hollow body was the first one. The second body of Silvertone was the one that had the amplifier, was the guitar case, and it had the amplifier built into the case.
Yep.
That was my second guitar.
That's
the
a good one.
Body one was at 8 years old, and that was when my dad just figured that, man, he's losing control of this thing, and so it was decided that I had to, if I was going to keep this guitar, I had to take lessons. I had to go to school for guitar. So that's what happened. I started on Saturdays. Every Saturday morning, I would go to Hamilton Brown and take guitar lessons from Hamilton Brown.
Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy taking lessons?
I did. I mean, I did until I heard, until I saw another gentleman and his grandfather playing the same style guitar and the same formula finger wise, but playing different songs than the ones that I was learning at school, at the class, and I said, oh, this is the kind of stuff I want to play. They were playing St. Louis blues and these blues songs.
Wow.
And I was learning cowboy songs, Home on the Range and Red River Valley.
Hey, you got to start somewhere.
But I was reading and stuff and all that kind of stuff. So I was okay with the learning aspect of reading music. And I read music all the way up until I started working with Alan Toussaint, when I pretty much abandoned it on reading because he didn't want us to read the music that he had us in the studio recording, which now, at that point, I'm in my, I'm 16 or 17, maybe 18 or 19, stuff like that.
I was just going to ask about what his first bands were, but I think it might be with Alan. So
the first band I was with was a gentleman named Herbert Wing, and his name of his band was the Royal Knights. And I wasn't really in the band. I was probably what you might call the first roadie. I kind of helped them set up and things, and I was the sub guy. So if anybody in the band had to go somewhere, mostly drums and bass. If either one of those guys had to run off the stage for a reason, I would sit in. See, I learned. Okay, I should back up. So in grade school, because violins or guitars was not a part of the school music compartment, myself and my little brother learned how to play drums. I played bass drum. My little brother played the snare drum.
Marching,
yes. So, needless to say, we both were switching off between instruments. So he would play bass drum and I would play snare drum. So I learned the whole deal, the whole idea between the two instruments. And then when also I'm playing guitar, so like I've learned how to how you say, play off of the other part of the instrument. So if I was playing my guitar, I knew the drums, I knew where the drums sat at in this particular song or music that we was playing. And I did that really well. And I mean, even today, I pay more attention to the drummer than anybody else in the band. Now, I don't ignore the chord formula because it's very important that a bass player plays the right third, when and when not to put that third in my bass line. So I'm very familiar with the chord structures, but I'm more interested in being as close as I can to the drummer because the guardian of the groove is the drummer, and and it's my job. I feel it's my job. I mean, I don't know because they got bass players out there making tons of money ignoring the drummer.
You wonder how that is, don't you? But you mentioned that the drummer is the group, but the bass player to me is the feel of the song. So at what age you're in a guitar, or you looked at the violin or on that, and you tried to get around a piano maybe once in a while, and the guitar, but the bass, when does the bass arrive and you go, oh, and the light bulb goes off and you say, this is where I want to live on stage? When does that happen?
I think that happened. Well, as a classical guitar player, you learn how to play bass anyway. Oh, I didn't say that's what I was learning how. The guitar teacher was teaching me classical formula, so I was playing with 10 fingers. So I knew, I knew bass in there. I was playing. So I was playing bass lines, melodies, and chords all at the same time. That's what I was doing. So I mean, bass was always a part of my musical input once I started playing guitar because as a classical player, that's what you did.
Interesting.
But I think what made me just go hard bass probably was about 15 or 16 is when I was getting calls. Well, I was getting referrals by mostly Herbert Wing. People would call. There were guys that Earl Kings, the Benny Spellmans, the Ernie Catos, and those guys would have frat parties, and they would call Herbert Wing, to say, hey man, Herbert, your band can play this gig this night or something like that, and Herbert would say, well, some of my guys can, and I'll hook you up with a different guy, and so I would get a call say, Earl King needs a bass player tonight. So then I would go play bass because I knew how to play bass. I didn't even own a bass at the time because Herbert used to loan me. He used to loan me his bass.
Unbelievable.
So that was pretty weird. So I didn't actually own a bass guitar until probably 19, I believe, something like that. And then I'm gonna have to go back and look at my stuff because I have to kind of remember what year it was when
It's okay.
When it was that what year it was it was 1965 or something like that when Art Neville, it might have been 64 when Art Neville hired me. Herbert sent me on a gig with Art Neville as a guitar player, and I was playing the guitar. And Art would turn to me and say, "Take a solo." I did the solo. I didn't know how to solo. I was a rhythm guitar player.
Oh,
I can play all the chords, and I knew the names of every one of the chords. I can do all the chords, but I could not take a solo. I had no idea where a solo would start.
And he pointed to you during the show. Take a solo.
Yes. Several times.
At 16.
So, at the end of the night, very upset with me. He was taking me home, and he didn't say a word to me all the way until we got about 2 blocks from my house. And he turned and looked at me and said, man, you're the worst guitar player I ever seen. I said, oh, so I mean, Art Neville was Art Neville. He had history. So, I was saying to myself, I said, whoa, bro, I guess my climb up the ladder just got shortened.
Is that when you turned to bass, George? Did you decide to put down the guitar?
it was Irvin Bannister who heard me as a guitar player who needed a bass player. And Herbert Wing told Urban Bannister called Herbert Wing, and Herbert Wing said, "I got a guy for you." And he sent me over to play that gig, and that's how. The next time Art Neville saw me, which was like a year maybe later, he saw me as a bass player playing with Urban Bannister, and he said, "Now that's the instrument you ought to be playing."
All right.
Ah.
That's good. You got to hear from him again. That's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
And
Boy,
again,
him and Fats Domino used to come. We used to play at a club called a Cindy Club. It was directly across the street from Charlie's Corner, which was like back then, which was kind of graduated to being key clubs, but back then it was a knock club. You had to know this certain knock. And the guy would look out the little window, and he recognized you. But it was like the place where the Earl Kings and the Fats Dominoes and those guys would go. After it was the after hour kind of club.
And how old are you when you're going to those places?
I've never ever been in Charlie's Corner. I've never been there. I was 16 years old when I was playing with Urban, and I played with Urban for about a year and a half. So it must have been about going on 18 when Art Neville saw me playing with Urban and asked me if I wanted to play a gig with him. Wow. So I want to say in late 66, or early 66, I moved from the Cindy Club to a club called the Nightcap and started playing with Art Neville. And
now, when Art said you're the worst guitar player he's ever met, and you thought, well, that's the end of this. Now you've come full circle. Now Art's asking for your help. That must have made you feel great.
Oh yeah, it was. I wasn't on the instrument that he originally dissed me on.
Yeah, that's right.
So I felt like what I was doing as a bass player then. I mean, by this time, I'm really have invested into being a bass player. I owned a bass at that time. Awesome. Now I own a bass. It only had 3 strings on it, but that was what I was playing, and I played it very well. So
George, how old was Art at the time that he had a band and he could be telling 16-year-old you suck, and then come back with the witch's broom? How old was Art Neville while he was running?
Art Neville is 10 years older than me.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Okay. So he's like 10 mentor. Yeah. Okay.
And he had records out. He had records out when I was a kid. So
okay.
I mean, all these things, Shaduki Do and all that stuff, that was out, in the late 50s, I guess, or the early.
Okay, that's right. Him and his brother. Yeah. Okay, so you're playing in Art's band. Is Art's band got a name?
Well, it had no name when we first started playing. It was just Art Neville. There was a disc jockey from WWOZ, not WYLD. I believe it was called WYLD. That used to come to the Nightcap frequently, and they would come in. Those disc jockeys would come in and they'll get juiced up, and so this one night, his guy's name was George Burnett. He convinced the club owner and said, "Yeah, I want to introduce the band on our third set." It was our third set. We would play 3 sets each night. And he said, "I want to introduce the band," So he got up on the microphone and said, "I'm George Burnett from WYLD and so and your local,
and DJ thing."
Yeah, he did his DJ thing, and we're gonna bring to the stage, Arthur Neville and his Neville Sound Band. And
Neville Sound?
That's what it's called. He called it the Neville Sound Band.
Okay.
And so from that point on, until we moved on to Bourbon Street, we were considered the Neville Sound Band, which there's only Neville in the band was Art. And the Nevilles didn't have a sound at that point. But, Aaron would come in the club every now and then. He would sing a couple of songs, usually on a Sunday night. Cyril was too young to be in the club, and Charles was away.
Wow.
So they are not the Neville brothers yet, right?
No, that was
okay. All right, so you're in the Neville Sound.
That was 15 years before there was a Neville brothers.
Oh my God, you were there from the beginning, dude.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just realizing this, George. It's kind of fascinating.
Well, he's writing a book.
Oh, well, maybe
I
I'll
mean,
have to
he's on
read
his
it.
12th year. What's taking you so long, George? 12 years. Come on. We want your book.
He's a Capricorn.
I mean, I'm closer today than I was. We have a writer now who has definitely signed on to he's already got almost probably 200 pages of stuff that we have had accumulated over the last probably six and a half, 7 years.
And I know Art wrote a book, but
The Neville brothers did a book, yeah.
Neville did a book, but his memories are different than yours. And it's like,
Absolutely.
so we want to hear your book. Yeah,
Well, you
like,
have to read it, definitely.
oh no, totally.
What I was going to do, which I was told that I should not do because it make me sound angry, like an angry old man. So let me turn this off.
Yeah, you can answer it.
So what I want to do is because what I was going to do was going to go through the Neville's book and quote their paragraph and then write bullshit and then write to it.
Awesome.
But Denise said maybe that's not a good idea.
Denise said that was not a good idea.
That sounded like a Denise thing. I'm with Denise. Maybe not.
Sounded good to me.
Me too.
Just said you're gonna sound like an angry old man. So
girls would say that. My brothers wish to God you'd do that book.
But I get the angry old man thing. I get the angry old man. I got to be careful myself. And
all right,
all
right. So let's wrangle this beast. So now you're in the Neville Sound Band with Art. Then what?
Well, we played the nightcap.
I mean, not every night. Like, how did you guys move into your next incarnate?
The meters.
I mean, it was a year and a half or so at the nightcap, and then the owners of the club lost the what you call the lease on the building. Mm-hmm. So so they basically closed the doors, and we were out of work for about a month. And then Art called everybody up, and at the time that band was Leo Nocentelli, Joseph Matalis, better known as Zigaboo, myself, and a saxophone player named Gary Brown, and Art, and called us and said that I got a gig for us on Bourbon Street. Well, at the time, Zig was 17 years old, so I was 18 when that happened. Zig had to get a work permit to work on Bourbon Street.
Wow.
Oh, sure.
So we did all the paperwork that we needed to do, and because the owner of the club was also one of the more connected people, I should say, for a better word. So he was able to get things done. And Zig got the paperwork that he needed to have to be in the club to play on Bourbon Street. So
means they got a crook to get some faulty paperwork so they could get him in underage. Go, George.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, back then, the people who owned Bourbon Street was the people who owned Bourbon Street.
Amen. They still do.
You don't need to go into that or call any names.
No.
Now, is this life that you're embracing here, this musical existence, everything's cool at home? They're okay. You're okay with what you're doing. Your pursuit is accepted. You're okay, or are you a rebel?
I'm a rebel. Mom and dad had been separated, for almost 5 years at that point.
Okay.
I'm almost 20. I'm thinking I was already living in another home with in fact, I had impregnated my wife that ended up being with me almost 50 years. Well, over 50, almost 51 years.
Wow.
What year is this? Ara, right?
Ara, yeah, her name was.
Is that going to be Katrina? Is Katrina coming?
But her name was Earlene, yeah.
And is that Katrina your daughter?
Katrina's my daughter.
Okay, all right.
So she was born in 1968. I was on Bourbon Street. In fact, when Errol went into the hospital to deliver Katrina, I was on stage at the Bourbon Street. Well, it wasn't a stage. We was behind a piano bar at the Ivanhoe at the time.
Wow.
So I got home that night and was told that I had a baby. That Errol had a baby. She wasn't happy about it.
That
She
is
what?
amazing.
She wasn't happy that, the fact that I couldn't be there,
Well, yeah, George, but better that than on the golf course.
No, yeah. Well, I wasn't on the golf course. I was on a gig.
No, I had to be on a gig when a child was born, and they will never let you forget that. Okay,
Never,
that's just
never.
ever,
That's
ever.
hilarious. Okay, so all right, the meters. I mean, you're going to become the meters, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
While we were on Bourbon Street, Alan Toussaint decided that his partner Marshall Sehorn contacted Art and said that Alan wanted to give us an audition to do a recording session, and Alan have been checking us out on Bourbon Street. Back then, you can talk, you can drive down Bourbon Street. So Alan used to come and sit in front of the door of the Ivanhoe and listen to the band for a couple of songs until he knew he had to leave. And usually after the set, the doorman would come in and say, "Yeah, your boy in the El Dorado was out front listening to you."
Oh, awesome!
So,
That's a good report.
That's being scouted, right? You're playing.
We knew who the El Dorado guy was.
Wow.
Okay.
So, we got the call to come in out and do an audition, and we ended up, they were re-recording songs for a Lee Dorsey project, and Alan was just throwing stuff at us to see how we responded, and maybe a few days later, a week or so later, we got the call from Alan. Art got the call again, Marshall Sehorn, saying that Alan wanted us to come in and at 10 o'clock, be at the studio at 10 o'clock and be ready to be there most of the day.
Wow.
And
fun.
But we had to be, they knew we had to be on Bourbon Street that night. So, so they had to usually turn us loose around 5, 6 o'clock. Because I think our call on Bourbon Street was like, our first set was like 8, I believe. Yeah. So, yeah, because Jack Ziegler started at 7. And we would play an hour on, hour off. So our first set started at 8 o'clock. So we would be out of the studio with Alan by 5.
So can I ask George? So you guys are playing music for other people, not y'all, right? You're being that Southern Wrecking Crew guys. You're playing.
Yeah, those. When we were in the studio with Alan, we were recording. Lee Dorsey.
So they were for other people, not any of your. Okay, just want to get clear.
It wasn't until it may have been a year later that Marshall Sehorn told us it was the end of Alan cut the session short that day, and Marshall came and said, "Well, we in here, so why don't you guys cut some, lay down a couple of tracks, Okay. So, I mean, it was like, one of the things that we were playing, the song that ended up being called Sophisticated Sissy. It was like we used to play that song as a break song before we go on a break, or I would introduce everybody. Okay. And so that song got recorded. Sissy Strut was kind of on the spot in the studio. Leo came up with those 2 licks. And then there was one track with Sehorn formed basically as Turkey in the Straw.
Is this your first time in the studio as a musician?
No, that would have been my second time. My very first time in the studio was with Irvin Bannister. He recorded a 45, and it was produced by Eddie Bo. Eddie Bo was the producer. And we did that at a studio on Camp Street, which was actually across the street from where Cosmo's studio was when we were recording the Lee Dorsey stuff with Alan.
Just a musician question. When you went into the studio for the first time, I actually have a memory of myself, but when you went in there for the first time, were you prepared, do you think, or did you learn that, recording, this is a whole different thing now. This is not live, this is recording. Did you just morph easily right into it? Just hit the record button, play, and it sounds great.
I think for me, it's because I had the mindset. I learned at a young age that when you go into the studio, or even if you go to somebody else's band, you check yourself at the door, and you go in, and you basically, I'm going in as a blank sheet of paper.
Okay.
So I'm here to learn what you want me to do.
Excellent.
Nobody, when my very first session, no one told me what to play. They just gave me a key.
Okay.
The artist. Well, actually, with Urban Bannister, we had been playing his song, with the band, more than a few months.
Okay.
So that was, it was, I was still a busy bass player with that song. By the time we got to the Lee Dorsey, Alan Toussaint sessions, it was totally different with Alan, because Alan was, my bass lines were almost in every song that we recorded with Alan. My bass line is in his left hand. So, my bass lines were always dictated with Alan's sessions. So
very interesting.
So I was, I didn't have a problem with that, because that's what I was. I was being paid to play what you want, and that's what I did.
Right.
I didn't. I wasn't like, I need to play. Oh, I want to. And every time I tried that, the session was, we would stop the song and we had to go back and do it again. So I came to the conclusion that
stop being George.
Stop being George. Yeah, right. Stop being George, Porter. That's where Alan was saying that. Alan exactly said that. Stop
Check
being
yourself
George.
at the door, Porter.
I stopped doing it, and I started paying more attention to his left hand and his feel. But his feel was, like I said, it was around the drums. He had that. Yes. He had that unique idea. So my bass lines fit the drum line. We were like that, and the bass and the bass drum, yes, was very anything, and it was like I never played a note that was on top of a snare drum backbeat. There was never, when the backbeat with the bass drum by itself, the backbeat was out there on its own, nobody interfering with it. At least not the bass player.
You described it well. Yeah, that's totally it.
George, what are you doing March? No, I'm just kidding. We need a sub. I think you'll work out really well.
That'd be wild.
Oh, yeah.
So with the meters, is this when some sense of fame is going to come for you? Or I know you're not pursuing that, but the meters got pretty big. I mean,
Well, we by the time we got to be big, or the chance that we had to be big, there was so much deceit amongst the players, because we had been pitted against each other by management. Management was doing more for one guy or two guys other than the other two players.
Wow.
Seemingly, Art and myself were favored more by Seahorn than Zig and Leo. And but it was just enough deceit that that the band players didn't trust each other. And then once we got into the Warner Brother years, the individual players, the primary songwriters, got to be more me.
Yeah.
So I mean, for the most part, probably the layer after everything after Rejuvenation, I don't believe I'm as part of the songwriting thing as much as I was with the first 4 albums, So, but I mean, I was okay with that, because at that point in time, I was deeply into drugs, and I didn't really give a doggone,
Yeah.
I mean, there was another word, but I won't use it.
That's okay.
Because it was like, I had gotten to that point where, man, I would rather just be high, and I like playing, and I want to play. And I want to be here with you guys, but I'm not going to compete. Yeah. I don't think I want to compete, because competing takes energy, and I don't want to burn my high, So that was that was my mindset, and and for whatever good or bad, I mean, for the most part, I think I did great work, in my worst days mentally. Mm-hmm. I did great work. So I mean, there wasn't there wasn't no parts of the music that I recorded from everything from after Rejuvenation on for the next 5 records that I sit back and say, holy shit, that's terrible.
You know what happened to me?
Yeah, right. What you had on your mind?
Fuck? You can say it, George. It's okay. We're grown ups.
That's called natural ability and natural talent. Clearly, you're born with it.
It was good. I mean, today I sit back and I think about it. When I was in the treatment center for the 6 weeks I was in there, I was very, very afraid that I was not going to be able to play when I came out. And I had
drugs, you mean? Yeah.
On my calendar, I had a gig booked with Snooks Evelyn that was on the calendar for some almost like 3 months. My 6-week tenure at Bowling Green, that gig that Saturday night came up, and a week before I would be done with Bowling Green, and I went to my counselors and I spoke to them about what was going on, and I told them that I think I need to go play this gig to find out if indeed I could do this.
Yeah.
If indeed
Amen.
that I could survive. Because when y'all cut me loose in a week, I'm gonna have to go back to this world, and I may not be ready to do that. And the counselors had their meeting. They thought about it, and they came back to me and told me, okay, this is what you got to do, and I had to, the rules was I had to be back in there 1 hour after the gig was over with. I had 1 hour to get back to St. Tammany Parish. And I had to do blood tests and urine tests, before I go to bed. And I said, no problem. I have no problem with that. Okay. I went to Tipitina's that night, played with Snooks, played really good, and had a big smile on my face. I saw all my drug dealers; they were there, and my wife and one of my drug dealers who was really a good friend, kept everybody away from me. Say, hey, bro, you leave Porter alone. They was really, and all my dealers was really very respectful of the fact that I was ready to start living, because I was probably very, very close to being dead. I mean, it was at James Black's funeral that a group of my peers was talking, and the question came up was, who's going to be next? And one of the guys, who was a very close friend of mine, said it's going to be Porter.
Wow.
And I didn't know that until after I got clean, and I was with a couple of those guys in that group, and they told me about that conversation.
Wow.
You sound like you're battling alone during this. Is there a support group around you during these years where you're trying to get it together, or were you pretty much on your own?
I was on my own. My own. All I had was my wife, and I, my primary motive going into it was I had thought I'd lost my family, and because that Sunday morning when I came off of my little gig that Saturday night and ended up late for Era and Sierra, Era and Katrina to go to. Katrina sang in the Christmas in the church choir, and she was late, and I had the car, and all I can remember was was Era saying, "Come on, Trina, let's go. We got to get out of here. We got to get out of here." And that looped in my head for whatever. I don't know how long she was gone to take Trina to the church. But that was looping in my head and just kept looping in my head. And, to my inner feelings, I had lost my family, and that's what, that was my motivation.
That got your attention.
It wasn't until I was in there that I decided that, I'm not here for them. I'm here for me, because, it's like, I just realized that I think I want to live, and I think that to live, I needed to start doing something totally different from what I was doing.
Well, so you found out when you got out that you could play, you didn't have to get high. So when you ultimately got out and went back to work, things were looking up, life was looking good,
Well, it was a
or not?
it was a world of waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for for people. So it was about, I was out for maybe 10 days or 15 days, and my phone hadn't ring. That I decided to write a piece released. I believe it was actually it was put in maybe the Times Picayune or one of those offbeat kind of magazines back then. But I pretty much wrote a letter, stating what I had done, what I was doing, and
George.
explaining to the pretty much to everybody read that document. I got phone calls from the members of the meters at the time saying, "What in the hell are you doing?
Wow.
Why are you saying?
Why are you saying this? This is stupid. You shouldn't say that." Well, the whole world knew I was fucked up. I think they need to know that I'm not anymore.
You're adorable.
Right.
So did you guys? So they called and said, "Knock that shit off," and then they got back to work.
No, well, I mean,
No.
your shoulders just disappeared. Oh, you can't back.
Oh, dude, I can do all kinds of magic. Crazy. Look, watch. No hands, Georgie.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I got all. I'm trying to stay cool.
Yeah, they were pretty. Because at that time, at that point, we weren't a band anymore.
Okay.
The band had already broken up,
Blowed himself up.
and but I think they almost was because in the piece that I wrote, I didn't say I only spoke about me. I didn't speak about anyone else and what they were doing or how they were doing it. I just spoke about what I was doing and what and I thought that was important that that I didn't shed any light on anyone else. I mean, I
think it's awesome what you did.
I took the blame for what I was going on. Although in the real world, I mean, a great deal of me wanting to escape was because, I just thought that I was always alone anyway in that band. Yeah. I didn't think that I didn't feel that that
camaraderie.
I didn't feel that my input was well enough to be considered. And
wow.
And for there's 2 songs I believe in the Meters' career that I wrote, and even today, I'm told by one of the players in the band that I never wrote a single song for the band. It's like those 2 songs that I wrote, everybody's names is on them because that's the way we did back then.
Oh.
But it was like,
oh, right, you split it up.
Yeah, we all the way up until Rejuvenation is when we started. When the guys started, the primary songwriters became primary.
Yeah,
and there was Zig, Leo, were probably more primary writers than Art was, but I think they did more songs. Probably Leo has more songs than Zig has. Oh, they're very close to the same. I never went through the list and see exactly how many songs that Leo wrote and how many songs that Zig wrote. And then there was, collaborations between Zig and Leo. Then when Cyril came in the band, there was also, he had a voice into writing. At that point, when Cyril got into the band, I was totally ignored. I was just a bass player. But I was the guy who was curating who got high and when they got high.
You had other things to be in charge of, George. What do you got, Paul? Paul, you got something?
No.
So I was totally happy with that, not knowing how much damage I was doing to me,
right.
by ignoring the fact that I was probably hurting the whole time,
Right.
But I didn't think, it wasn't important enough for me at the time, and until I thought I lost my family, then being high got to be a problem, because
sure.
all up until I thought I lost my wife and child, I didn't care, I really didn't.
Hey, that's what it took. That's what it took.
It got your attention. Paulie, what do you got?
Yeah. So all of those troubles, okay, and you persevere. And now you get to play with your kids and your grandkids. That has to be
great grandkids.
Holy moly. So how is that? How does that feel?
Oh, it's like a big grin on my face.
Yeah.
My granddaughter Sierra lives right next door to me. When the baby was in the carriage, Denise said, we have to prepare for this baby. Sierra had asked me, probably 5 or 6 months earlier about a swimming pool, but her and her grandmother had spoken about putting a swimming pool in the yard anyway. And she said, so after Era passed away, it was like, Grandpa, what we're gonna do what Grandma wanted to do, put the pool in the yard. I said, why not? Boom.
Good opening.
So Denise and I went out to the pool place out there, and and we got the pool. We got the pool put in the yard. Then we decided that when the baby was in the basket, Denise said, "Man, we gotta make it so that the baby have somewhere to go." So we built a park. Next to the swimming pool, the baby has probably not.
You could sell tickets, George, to your backyard to all the toddlers in Jeff Parish. Okay,
where are you children going? We're just going down to Porter Park.
Going to the Porter Park. I've seen it. Okay, I've seen it.
So George, today,
it's a nice
to jump too far.
The kid has a castle that she can climb in.
She's got no. Listen,
for her Christmas present this year, she got last year she got a trampoline thing that has a swing in it.
Porter Park's growing.
It's all covered. It's caged in, so even if she fell, she couldn't bounce around and bounce out of the trampoline.
Listen,
she bounced and hit a wall and bounce right back in. It's like,
if things go bad over here on the Point, we're going to move into Porter Park. I'm going to tell little Calliope I need her castle. Russ and I are small.
Really, I can see us. Are they booking bands at Porter Park yet? I love that. George, you have shows from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon now. And so coming at you, you're all over the place playing. I mean, you're a very, very active live performer. You must love to perform live. I mean, do you love the stage?
I think I do. I mean, especially more because of the players, the guys that's in this particular version of Running Partners Band. I want to say this probably the 7th version of this band. Like Michael Lemler, the keyboard player, has been playing with me for over 27 years.
Wow.
And he's
Porter Trio guy, right? Porter Trio guy?
Well, yeah. Porter Trio and Running Partners.
Okay.
The Porter Trio is basically minus one running partner, the guitar player.
Yeah.
So it's Terrence Houston and Michael Lemler, who's also running partners. So, running partners have went through, I think, 6 or 7, what's that word?
Incarnations.
And yes. And, and this particular version, I believe, is the most productive. I think is the correct word I want to use.
That's a good word.
And very musical.
Yeah, and these guys are individually like musical.
Yeah.
And this recent record that I recorded that Susan has put in was written lyrics for 2 songs, I believe.
Yes.
That I don't know. Sorry.
That you can't sing, but that's okay. Keep going.
Yes. I actually leaned on everybody to be creative. I almost all of the songs were wrote with me and my acoustic bass in the living room every morning, waiting for the dog to come back in from doing her number 1 business and 2 and stuff. And I'll sit down with my acoustic bass and my cell phone, wow. And I'll record something and go to bed, and then get up later that day and come up to the studio and put the bass line on Pro Tools and create that cloud session.
Are you talking about Crying for Hope, the album?
Yes.
This is is it really a double vinyl?
Yes, it's 2 vinyls. Yeah.
Well, you were productive. You said it was the most productive ever. That's pretty productive. That's
Go ahead,
incredible.
Paulie.
Hey,
Well,
George.
it's basically three sides.
Oh,
The fourth side is artwork.
Okay.
It was a piece of artwork, which is a great
Yeah,
piece of
it's
artwork.
beautiful.
I have to you guys send me addresses. I'll send you copies of because
Parting gifts.
it's beautiful. I always tell people when they buy the record, buy two copies because you're gonna want to put one up on a wall. It's a great piece of artwork on the side four. Yes.
we got to try that, you guys. So in '95, the Funky Meters are going to start getting together, and Art Novell is there with you again. But I was reading, and in this article, you say, yeah, and I became the band leader because I maneuvered better.
Say that again. I did what?
You became the band leader because you maneuvered. Yeah.
Because I maneuvered better.
Because I maneuvered better. What does that mean?
I think I started standing up more than Art was. One of the things that we used to always say about Art is I love him to death, but that he just took too much BS from the outside world. He kind of tend to lean more on what somebody else said other than what we said. For the lack of better words, it was like he would always just bow to the white boy and not say, "Man, that's bullshit."
All right.
And we would say, "Oh, that's bullshit, man."
What do they know?
Say, man, if the man say that's what it's supposed to be, man, that's what it's supposed to be.
Oh, that's Art's line.
That's bullshit.
Okay.
And then when he see it was bullshit, then he say, "Oh well, that's the way it is." I said, "No, bro." So when Funky Meters came along, I kind of like wanted to be the voice, that will say, when the BS is acceptable and when it isn't.
Well, you were stepping up now. You were ready to be a part.
Well, in the Funky Meters, unlike in the Meters, I had a voice, and also I now had a sober voice.
Right.
Because I kind of think I really do. I kind of blame me for the Meters falling apart, the original band falling apart, because I had removed my voice from that organization. I just removed myself from, having of saying, bro, what y'all getting ready to do is rude, is stupid.
Yeah, you're just a side guy, yeah.
So I removed my voice for 5 recordings, without saying, man, we should think more of what we were doing in the late '60s rather than trying to keep up with Hall and Oates or and the primary songwriters were trying to write hits. When we first started playing, those bands were opening for us.
That's incredible.
Now those bands are selling million records. And, so I understand the primary writers. I understood that. I understood, man, hey, the Commodores was an opening band, Wow. And, but they were in the right place at the right time. We had management that didn't want us to be like that. We had management that did not take advantage of what we did. Wow. And I think Marshall C. Horn, he wanted us to be Alan Toussaint's band forever.
Yeah. Okay. He didn't want you guys to branch out and go be your own dudes.
Although it was his idea for us to start recording, it was Marshall that did that. It wasn't Alan, and and I think when Alan started seeing what we were doing, we were putting out stuff that because Alan kind of lives off of our what we did. He usually take what we did and compile it into writing songs for other artists. But but instead of taking and being Alan Toussaint and produce us, on record, paper wise, Alan Toussaint produced all our music, but he never produced any of our music. He never was in the
Wow.
studio. He never was in the studio when we recorded.
That's a
You know,
shame.
and Warner Brothers kind of found out about that and got upset, and then Warner Brothers dropped all 5 of us.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Oh,
it was kind of like, but that was what it was. I don't know if there was a way that could have been avoided, but
Yeah.
it went down. It went down, and it was unfortunate because I believe that if Alan Toussaint would have worked with the Meters as he worked with the Patti LaBelle's and the Robert Palmers and those other artists that he had, Dr. Jones, that he had hit records with the Meters, I think that, the Meters would have had hit records as well,
Sure.
Sure.
And he would have, and Alan Toussaint as an artist itself would have been elevated to that
A
next
different
level
level.
of producers,
yeah.
the Quincy Jones type of producer guys,
Yeah.
So George, when
Yeah.
Alan's producing out, okay, like Glenn Campbell and all that, is he using any of you guys?
No, we didn't use any. We ended the session that, but see, a lot of the songs that he did with Glenn Campbell, with the Glenn Campbell session, we recorded with Alan. So those songs we recorded.
That's what I'm
the
hearing.
original
Okay.
versions of those songs. Yes.
Did you ever make it to the Northern Lights?
I went there, and the Northern Lights refused to come out when I was there. Or it came out in the part of the night when I had already went to bed.
And you were not going to get up for the Northern Lights, were you?
I wasn't getting up for the Northern Lights. Denise saw the Northern Lights from the heated swimming pool with her and everybody else that was on the session. I had already went to bed.
You're hilarious. What do you think? Okay, the whole Deadhead thing. I know we need to kind of wrap it up, but
I can stay with you forever. I'm just trying to. It's Thunderman over here, and Vicky tends to get upset about Thunder. And she said, "I don't want to."
So, what was I just going to? Oh, yeah. So, with the Deadhead thing, how did that come about? How did you become involved with Deadhead music? Because I don't know, I don't kind of peg you for a Deadhead.
No, I wasn't, and it was Steve Kimmock was playing. Had the drummer, one of the drummers, Mickey Hart, was deciding to do a solo project with the band that shit. I believe, I don't know if it was his first incarnation or his second incarnation of a band, a Mickey Hart band.
Okay.
But Steve Kimmock was in that band, and apparently, the original player that they wanted to use was a young guy from the Tea Leaf Green band. He wasn't available, and Steve Kimmock suggested that they use me, and so I got to play in the Mickey Hart's band, which pretty much majority of the songs that we did in that band was Robert Hunter songs that was wrote for Mickey, the Mickey solo band, but they were pretty much kind of in that same musical vein of the Grateful Dead, and then we were playing probably a dozen Dead songs in that organization as well.
Okay.
So that was my introduction to the Dead music.
Okay.
Wow.
Bill Kurtzman and Papa Marley had a band, and that same bass player that was going to be in the Mickey Hart's band was also being considered for the band that would be eventually get the name of Seven Walkers, but he wasn't available because his band, was a very popular band. He was working.
Okay.
And so it was a Tipatina show. I was on, I think it was like a Mardi Gras thing with Papa Marley. And he, we were playing, and he kind of walked over to me on the stage in between a song and said, "Man, would you like to start playing some gigs with me and Billy Kurtzman?" And I said, "Who's Billy Kurtzman?" And he said, "Well, that's one of the drummers with the Grateful Dead." I said, "Oh, they had 2 drummers?" Because I played with Mickey Hart already. He said, "Oh, they had 2 drummers." See, that's how much I knew.
Oh, that's funny.
Was nothing.
Yeah, I thought it was Denise's idea. To be honest, I didn't know you had an actual musical connect. I thought Denise went, "I love the Dead. You're in the band. Let's go."
Yeah, no, it wasn't Denise. But so I said sure, and
awesome.
I went out and did the Seven Walkers project, and at that point with Seven Walkers, again, Robert Hunter had wrote songs for he wrote lyrics, I should say, for Seven Walkers. Papa Marley had did the music arrangements.
Okay.
So I basically learned those 12 songs, and I think I actually re-recorded 2 of the songs for that record that they had already produced. Had put the record together. And there was we were playing a couple of songs, and Billy wanted to replace the bass line on a couple of the songs. He said, "Man, we should get Porter to play these bass lines on these songs." So we went into a studio, and I redone those bass lines on a couple of the songs.
So are you considered an auxiliary deadhead? Are you a auxiliary?
I guess that would be pretty much the point. I was an auxiliary. But right Steve Kimmock kept me in the loop because he started a band called Voodoo Dead. And
right.
he pretty much used me as much as he could for the Voodoo Dead projects, especially the ones that was done here in New Orleans. I was almost all those. I went to Japan with him.
That's right.
With the Voodoo Dead. Yeah. So I mean, I'm kind of like a substitute bass player.
You're like an unofficial deadhead, an unofficial Grateful Dead guy. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You're like the utility player on the baseball team. All these bands, when a band would call you, what would you do? Just cram their songs and just, the week before, just cram?
Good question.
Well, I did some cramming, but I learned about 10 years ago that it's much better for me to read this music rather than trying to learn it.
Okay.
Now, once again, Michael Limler, I'll send him the songs and have him write me charts.
I use Limler in my band now, you guys.
He writes my charts out, and and I put them on my iPad, and I just and one of the things that I don't do is because we're playing the Dead songs is my bass lines, are not the typical Deadhead Dead bass lines. Because I'm more of a pocket player.
Yeah.
So and with unlike with Mickey Hart, he was not very happy with what I did, but the drummer in that band, Ralph Reyes Jr., he loved the way I played because me and him was grooving.
Yeah.
We would groove so good, and Mickey wanted it to be more outside,
That's hilarious.
But I think that might have been the most unhappy 2 months for Mickey playing that band, because we just didn't play. We didn't play like the Grateful Dead.
It was the Great Porter Dead.
and Mickey, Mickey, I believe Mickey just, I believe all those guys except for Billy, thought that they had to be honest to who they were. Even like myself, I just abandoned my meters to be me. And my knowledge of the meter music, I kept, but I used what I thought was I used the music, not the feel.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I applied my feel to George Porter and Running Partners. So there's, I recorded a record. I think I don't know the name of it now. I believe it's what is it? What is the name of that record? I don't know. Something about Funk This. It might be called Funk This. But it was 16 songs that that was all meter songs that was recorded by the Meters but never performed live by the Meters.
Oh wow!
Okay. So the band had and basically it was 24 songs, but we had narrowed it down to 16. And 14 of the songs went on the record, and the other 2 we gave away on the website.
Wow.
But but it was like I took those songs and and I applied it to the band and opened them up, and made the individual players in the band, more visible. That this said more, it had a more important role than just the basic. I took a 2.5, 2.5 minute, 3 minute song and made it 5, 6 minutes. Just opening it up musically. That might see, because the original band, the Meters, used to do this all the time. I mean, our first recordings, those first 3 albums, almost every song was 2.5 minutes long. We never ever did something that was that was more than 3 minutes.
That's right.
Back then, that was just like if you want to get a record on an airplane, it had to be under 2 minutes.
That's right. That's right.
And so when we were playing gigs in the late '60s, we had to stretch out, because we were back then. They were 4-hour gigs almost.
Yeah.
The rule was you go up there and play 4 hours. Now, if you had one record out, then we had to go out there and play. We turned that one record into a 2-hour set.
Yeah, we know about that.
Yeah, we've done that ourselves.
So jamming was a part of that was a part of the scene. I mean, the jam band communities that came later, which is so popular now. We were doing that in the '60s. We were doing that in the '60s.
And you would say that it's kind of re-upped, right? It's popular again.
Oh yes, it's happening. I mean, the young players.
I know. I see them at your shows, dude.
They they're doing really well doing it.
Yeah.
But once again, at my age, I'm still seeing that there's things that bands that has opened for running parties now got better record deals, because basically I don't have that organization, the organization that's back there in the back watching my back. So, I'm pretty much still out the trunk of my car kind of guy.
We're kind of like that. We're kind of like that.
That kind of cool with me. I'm all right. I can still walk the streets in New Orleans and nobody know who I am.
Oh, baloney, George. That's not true, guys. I've been out with George. But I want to talk about the book and the documentary, please, before we finish here. So, there's a documentary, right, George?
Yes, there is a documentary. And my girl, there she is.
Vicky's it's the thunder.
Yeah,
that's okay. We all have pets.
Worrying about the crowd.
Yeah.
The documentary is probably like another 35, 40 minutes of footage that need to be shot. That's going to happen this March.
Okay.
We received footage the other day from the producer for me and John to look at, and
Oh wow, you're going to go through footage.
And then also, that's in the works is the video and audio from my 75th birthday, which was a fiasco.
Yeah, it was. Rusty played on that, you guys.
You were there.
I was there. Russ was there.
You were there. You were there.
She was supposed to sing her song that she wrote for us.
And what happened, George?
I didn't know. I just didn't feel comfortable.
You didn't learn it, George.
I didn't learn it.
That's what you said. So I had to do Love Train, y'all.
So she did Love Train, which looks great on video.
Susan, George does not answer to you. If he didn't learn it,
he does not. George answers to no one. Well, he answers to a couple of folks.
And there's a commitment, I guess he's going to finish the book by year 15, I think, maybe. Is there...
I'm thinking that the editor of Relics magazine is now signed on, and he is actually at this point talking to what you call a publishing house, I believe they call, and they are asking. There are some things that he's sending to me that I'm supposed to get on. It was decided that we was going to wait till the first of the year. Okay. So I'm looking to receive something from him pretty soon of things that I need to do. And he was calling it something. It's like a prelude to what we're going to do.
Yeah, you need to write the prelude to your book. Yeah.
This is going to be an important history book.
We got to give them, because I think that he decided that he don't want me to write an encyclopedia.
Are you lengthy?
I'm pretty lengthy, yeah.
Yeah, Capricorns are lengthy writers, guys.
Well, they're called editors. They're called editors. They get awards. There's a reason.
So
that'd be cool.
So I mean, and also he's making sure, he wants to make sure that the documentary and the book doesn't coincide at the same time to step on each other.
That's cool. A good thinking.
So, so I think he wants to allow the documentary to come out first. So and I believe in this shooting for the documentary to be ready before Jazz Fest this year. So that's
right.
Perfect.
That should be documented for that, and then probably shortly after that, we will present the prelude to the publisher, cool. and get whatever commitment from them that they're going to do.
Yeah. That's exciting.
All of those, both of those are like in the stages of completion. Yes.
Look at this guy, 76, bookings all over the country, documentary, book. This is exciting because we're the new breed. We do things when we're in our 70s and 80s. I love this.
That's right. Go.
Yeah.
We want to thank you. We've taken up a lot of your time. Thanks so much for that. And you've told us things you've told so many other people. Thank you for that too. Because
hopefully I didn't lie to myself.
No, you told.
We will see you in New Orleans or Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon, and points in between.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in both cities in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, you are. It's a remarkable career, George, and we're so glad to have finally met you. Susan's been talking about you for years, and Lord, here you are. I just love it. Great story.
Thank you, Georgie.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
We will stay in touch and follow your shenanigans. We love it. All right, everyone. Later.
All right, kids.
See you guys later. I'll talk to you, Georgie.
All right. Bye-bye.